Hi,
There we
Adam. All
go.
right. Hey, welcome to the Saratoga Podcast, everybody. I think we're up to episode number 88. I'm Dan D. Federicis of Saratoga Report. I'm here with my friend Adam Israel. Robin Dalton, our third co host, is spending some quality time with her family. Good for her. Welcome, everybody. And we've got a lot to talk about, as usual. Saratoga, never dull. Adam, you attended last night's city council meeting. A lot happened. I was able to catch a good portion of it online. Folks, you can always go to the city website and watch it either live or they usually post it within 24 hours afterwards. Adam, never short of excitement or emotions, passion. Last night's city council meeting. Last night was no exception. We want to start off with something that's been in the news for a while, both at the city council meetings, but also in the news generally, is the truck traffic on Van Dam, which is a complicated issue and issue decades in the making. I would like to give a quick shout out. Lou Benton has written quite a bit on that. And one of these days, we got to go do a deep dive into what he's written on it. But Adam, there were a number of Van Dam residents. Looks like they've organized a homeowners association, if you will. I don't know if there's an official name for it or an official category for it, but that's what it looked like to me. You were the one that noticed they were well organized, and I'll tee it up for you in a second here. And all I'm going to say is these people looked determined, well structured, and like they weren't going away. Is that kind of part of what you got?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think they've really had enough of these trucks, truck after truck after truck, and all. There are probably 10, 15 different families that got up and shared their experiences of their homes just being rattled day in and day out because of these trucks that are going by.
Literally rattled, right, Adam?
Literally rattled. Yeah, exactly. And then all the noise pollution, air pollution that comes along with it. They talked about, and they in full disclosure, my father and my sister my sister lives in Van Dam, so she's very vested into this group. My father has some property, so he's very vested. Essentially the point they were making is that, first of all, this is not, they're not targeting local deliveries. These are trucks that are using Saratoga as a shortcut between I-90 and 87. That could just as easily stay on the interstate system, take a little more time for them, but little more time is not hours, it's minutes. But instead, they're cutting through Saratoga, cutting through these historic residential neighborhoods, and bringing with it all the dangers and pollutions and just adverse conditions that go with having 80,000 pounds of tractor trailer coming through down your street every 5 minutes. So the Van Dam neighbor, they got up and spoke. That's exactly what they said, that they would keep pursuing this both at city council meetings. They have legal representation legally if they had to. My father got up and spoke, and this was interesting because I didn't even know this, but he was counsel for the New York State's not Parks and Recreation, but the New York State
Department
Parks.
of Historic Preservation. I watched his testimony. It was very good testimony.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exist anymore. It is part of parks now.
Yes. And so he wrote a lot of this regulation. So New York State, essentially, the New York State DOT is chiming in and saying, well, Saratoga, regulation says, the New York State DOT regulation says you can't do this. And, my father got up there and said, if the city attorney might agree with New York State DOT that their regulation does this, but he said he wrote the regulation. Their regulation and what they're stating as their regulation may not be legal. That New York State doesn't have the authority to impose some of these restrictions on municipalities. So New York State is essentially referencing flawed regulations in their attempt to keep this truck traffic coming through Saratoga. So I have to say, I think every Saratogian should. There's some concern if the trucks come off of these streets, what streets they go to. They stay on the highways. They circumvent Saratoga. So I think every Saratogian should be supporting this group and what they're trying to do, because this group is as well organized, as well motivated, as well attended, as loud as voice as any group I've ever seen in Saratoga trying to address this truck issue. And it's an issue that affects us all. Dan, I don't know. You watched some of it. I don't know if you have any other insight.
Well, yeah, based on your dad's testimony, what some of the people said, and I agree with this. What your father was saying was just because it came on official DOT letterhead does not make it accurate necessarily, and he's absolutely correct. And so the city needs to research this. And then what some of the people were saying was, okay, let's say it is in law. Well, the law can be changed, can it? And if enough people fight this, it can be changed. It doesn't have to be this way forever. We're not going to sit down and say, well, we're stuck with it. They're not going away. And I was pretty impressed by them. They were respectful, but boy, were they determined. And this bears watching. I think they're going to succeed here. Whether they succeed as far as they want, I don't know to the level of success. But it is. And I walked up Van Dam just not 2 days ago, not even expecting us to have this discussion today. And wow, it is when you see a truck, you're so close to it. The sidewalks are so close to the street there. The houses are so close to the street there. It's like, I get it, folks. If you got a few minutes, walk up Van Dam Street during the day or anytime, I guess, and just get a feel for what it's like there and what these people are going through.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings us to the next part of city council meeting, public comment. And I felt the need to make a public comment this time. There was last Wednesday, Saratoga BLM organized a Palestinian march, a pro-Palestinian march, and which inherently.
Can I interrupt you there? They were one of the many organizers. Would that be fair, or no? Was it purely BLM?
Well, they were the main organizer. Okay. So there were other parties involved. I unfortunately don't have the list in front of me. One was, it was a Skidmore organization for Palestine. One was an organization, I think it was called PSL. And it was, I did a little research on them. And one of these articles they wrote was how America has been complicit in allowing Israel to spread the lie that there was mass rapings on October 7th. So I mean, it's reminiscent of Holocaust denial. These groups of what they're trying to do and trying to rewrite history. These are, if you're Jewish, if you're a Zionist, these are scary groups because they are essentially either claiming October 7th didn't happen or wasn't as brutal and as horrible as Israel said it was, or that resistance, violence and resistance is justified. And so, what happened is they held this rally. I happened to be walking through the park at the time, and this was part of my public comment. And I was walking, it was not random. I was walking past this rally to see who was there, see how attended it was. And the head of this rally started yelling my name, Adam Israel, and yelling my last name. And it was clearly an attempt to intimidate me or to rile up the crowd, that the fact that somebody with the last name Israel walks through this crowd. And one of the things I said at
Can I interrupt you? Do you happen to know who that is, or you don't want to say, or you're just not sure?
He was the head of Saratoga BLM. I don't even feel like saying his name. So it was the head of Saratoga BLM, the agitator who was constantly agitating at our public, at our city hall meetings. We passed each other on a trail in Congress Park, and he started cackling my last name like it was like he was intimidating or threatening me. And this is something I said, and this is one of the reasons. There's many reasons I'm very passionate about this. One of the reasons is because my children using my children would be affected by something like that happening. And should they be ashamed or embarrassed or scared or nervous to use their, God-given last name, their family-given last name, because it happens to be Israel? So, I took a lot of offense to that. But there was more. Throughout their rally, there were calls for River to the Sea, which again has every credible Jewish organization has deemed anti-Semitic. They called for a worldwide intifada, which again is essentially calling to rise up and brutalize Jews around the world. They were back to their old tropes of SSPD, KKK. Again, this whole I go back to this whole Saratoga big lie that the Saratoga police were culpable for an unjust killing of Darrell Mount, that they're racist somehow, that this makes them KKK. So it really listen, if you and I read a statement from the Jewish Federation, and one of the parts of that, and it was condemning this march as anti-Semitic, but everybody mourns the loss of life, especially innocent life. It breaks my heart to see what innocent Palestinian civilians are going through right now. Where the divide is the responsibility. And for Jews, essentially mainstream Jews, it lies solely on Hamas, who started this war. It lies on Hamas, who uses civilian infrastructure as military bases. They use their own people as shields and against the Israeli or the Israelis' work to go and capture Hamas. And so the last thing I said, and I thought this was true, is that that brings me into the next point of and I'm a little over the place here, but the article by Andrew Waite. Did you see this, Dan, from the Daily Gazette?
Yeah, he had a commentary in there. Yes, I'll let you introduce the yes. More of a commentary, and then some people refer to it as editorial. No, he works in the newspaper, but it's his commentary, not necessarily the Gazette's. It's not necessarily a Gazette editorial. Just to clarify.
Right. So he wrote an editorial, but the editorial for me it was propaganda. It was meant to dehumanize Israel and Jews by just claiming Israel has already killed 35,000 civilians, not giving context to first of all, those are Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. These are their numbers they're reporting, but it doesn't matter. The number is there are civilians dying, and that's not propaganda. That's true. But the fact that we go back
I'm glad you acknowledge that, because I did want to acknowledge that apparently 2/3 of the deaths are non-combatants, and so there are. And I recognize what happened October 7th. Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
There are horrible things happening right now, usually adversely affecting children between starvation and death. But I'm sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine. It's Dan. I really appreciate the counterpoints to this, because these are important for people who want to ask these questions and to get an answer. The part of the counter to that is, if you give a 16-year-old a gun and tell him to go shoot at IDF soldiers, they shoot back and kill him. Is he a dead child or is he a dead soldier? Right? Because guess what Hamas counts him as?
Tough question, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And these numbers are for Hamas. So there's an incredible amount of inaccuracy. But the leaders of Hamas are billionaires with a B, who live in Qatar, where their people starve and why their people die. And this is a sole responsibility of Hamas, and the killing will not end. And again, this was my final point in my public comment, is that in order for the killing to end, Israel will go into Rafah and they will eliminate Hamas and they will try to free the hostages. And if any ceasefire right now simply, and this is Hamas states this is not me saying this allows Hamas to regroup, rearm, reorganize, and go out and kill more, brutally kill more Israeli civilians. So unfortunately, this is the byproduct of starting a war is civilian infrastructure and civilian death. And it's horrible, and nobody likes to see this. But this is solely on the backs of Hamas. Now, again, so I don't want to get too much into national politics.
I was going to say you're going to bring this back to Saratoga, right?
Exactly. So I'll again, as you can tell, I'm a little passionate about this. But I will say
you're a lot passionate about it, and you've got every right to be.
Yeah. So one other incident too that a public speaker got to talk about was there was the Chabad rabbi. Chabad are very traditionally dressed Jewish people. The Chabad rabbi's daughter and the younger siblings were in Congress Park, and they were followed by the same day, same time as this rally. They were followed by somebody yelling "Hail Hitler" at them. So horrible. Just a 19-year-old girl and her 3 younger sisters, right? And for children to have to go through this, it's just
I'm disgusted and embarrassed, because I did hear about this. Somebody mentioned that in public comment, correct?
Yes. So there was one member of Saratoga BLM there, and she was making the case, and it's kind of the same case that's made of that It's a genocide, which it's not, but civilians are dying. And there has to be a ceasefire. And I agree, it's horrible what's going on, but it only ends when the hostages are free and Hamas is eliminated. That's the only way the death and starvation and humanitarian crisis ends. And so, anyway, that's my 2 cents on public comment. Dan, I don't know, you want to clearly, I'm very focused on one part of the public comment, but I don't know if you want to add a little more insight into it.
Sadly, I am not well versed on, probably the most important story going on in the world right now. I do say, not so much as a counter to what you're saying, but I hear about children starving and children dying, and I've got my own children. I wish there was a way to immediately end this. I don't know, Adam. I hate to say this, not because this might be counter to your position, but I hate to say this because I'm getting into a topic that I don't know too much about. But there are some reasonable people that have said, what Israel is doing is an overstep, and we're getting way off kilter here with the non-combatants' deaths and the children, and not letting aid come in because they're worried that it's going to end up being arms. I get all that. It all gives me pause. I'm thankful so much for what I have. My daughter was complaining about the lack of internet last night, and I'm like, oh my God, child, you just don't know. You are such a spoiled American kid. The internet was back up in 2 hours, and so forth. So I'm just I'm just a human. Obviously, I'm not Jewish. It doesn't mean from October 7th back to the Holocaust and everything so much. What happened October 7th was horrible. Israel had every right to defend themselves. Sometimes I just wonder, boy, does it have to be this ugly? And you're saying it does. And I just don't know enough about it to get it, to give you a strong debate here, which I don't think we want to do anyway.
True. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's incredibly messy. It's incredibly sad. It's incredibly tragic what's going on. There are everything we get is filtered. There's a lot of lenses it's filtered through. And so,
what happened in Congress Park, Adam? The anti-Semitism towards you, or at least the cackling your name, and then apparently chasing children.
The following the children.
I got to believe there's some criminality there, and I don't know if the police department has open investigation. I don't know if anyone has complained about it, but to me is a hate crime, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll say this: saying my name is not a hate crime.
I'm talking about the young ladies who were harassed, essentially.
How disgusting this individual is, but. With that being said, I will say the police were notified. So there is. I don't know what actions taken, but the police, these girls' father called the police and wanted the police to know that this is what happened. So again, I think that and this is interesting. Being a Jew, it's interesting because if a woman accuses a man of sexual misconduct, if pretty much any other minority. It makes an accusation of misconduct. It's you believe the person, not the person who is accused of being inappropriate, right? Except if you're Jewish, right? Jewish, we always got to go out and we got to prove that, hey, no, seriously, this is anti-Semitism happened, and I think the police report does do that. Right, so this isn't just crying the wolf. The father was so, and the daughters were so disturbed by what happened that they called the police and they filed a report. So, I again, being a Jew, sometimes we just have to say, listen, this is the corroborating evidence to the anti-Semitism that happened. But at the end of the day,
I got to interject. My question is, what is the police department investigating this as a possible criminal offense? And I don't have every detail. So maybe on its face it wasn't, but boy, if it was possibly criminal offense, then that has to be fully investigated and possibly arrest made in my book. And that's the old cop in me. I realize you're focusing on something different here, but the old cop in me clicks in, and I don't know the laws like I used to. I haven't worked the road in 25, 30 years. And the laws have changed. So I don't know. And I don't know what happened, but boy, there's enough there to make me wonder, was an offense committed? Was a hate crime committed? I don't know as I sit here. it should be looked at very closely.
Yeah. Well, I agree, and I think we all agree it's horrible. I will say this: May 19th at 2 p.m. we're having a rally in Congress Park. It's going to be a patriotic rally. It's going to be drawing attention to the hostages that are still being held. There's American hostages being held still. There's Israeli hostages being held. There's 2 hostages from New York State that are being held right now still by Hamas. So for me, that's the light at the end of the tunnel, where there'll be more information to follow. This is very new, but May 19th, 2 p.m. in Congress Park. If you believe in democracy, Western civilization, if you want to stand up against terrorism and terrorists, come down to Congress Park, May 19th at 2 p.m.
Okay, did I see something, between looking at my phone, looking at my computer, seeing things on Facebook, I could have sworn I saw something, and it might have been what you're talking about, but this seemed more of a down the middle kind of rally or gathering of people that concerned for the Israeli hostages, concerned for the Palestinian children. Did I see something like that going on, or am I just imagining this?
Yeah, I think you're imagining it, because this is breaking news. What I'm telling you right now, we had a Zoom call with some multiple parties last night and really kind of finalize the details of it. So
no, but is somebody else organizing something as what I described? I guess you're not aware of that.
Not that I'm aware of. Not in Saratoga that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And I probably would be aware of it, not necessarily. But I hope they are. You should go to that one as well. So
and anyone sending comments in, Adam and I probably aren't going to see them. Those usually go to Robin's Facebook page, and this is broadcasting on Robin's Facebook page, I believe, but we won't be able to see your comments this week. So sorry about that. Okay, Adam, continuing with City Council, there was more last night. More, imagine that. You want to talk about that? Were we going to talk about
the library parking? So this was interesting.
Yeah.
I was really interested in this. This caught me a little bit on surprise, but there was a proposal to, the library parking lot has already been pretty much first come, first serve, open to everybody. I think there's a couple spots that were either 15 minutes or dedicated to the library. But the library was looking to change that to get priority for those parking spots, and how it's going to integrate into the new paid parking system. Dan, do you have some insight into that?
Well, I don't have insight. I just know what I saw, and I took an interest in it, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, when the library was built 30 some years ago, and apparently that was quite the political football back then. Some people were against it. Ed Lindner of Biketoga was the attorney at the time, and he had some comments about what happened in 1992. Interesting. Anyway, I'm digressing. But as it stood, at least up until last night, there was an agreement between the city that was open parking for anybody on a first come, first served basis. And now with things changing and more parking available elsewhere and paid parking and so forth, as I understand it, Adam, that there's that has been changed, and now during library hours, that will be for exclusive use of library patrons. What seemed to be largely left unsaid is, how is that going to be enforced? I don't know. Is somebody going to be out there saying, "Hey, you parked and you didn't go towards the library, you're in violation"? I don't know. But then after hours, it will be paid parking, much like the other city lots and ramps. Garages that fall under the purview of paid parking. I think that's what it is. So exclusivity for the library, how is enforced? I don't know. During library hours, paid parking in the off hours is what I understand. Is that what you understand?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Is that library? When I say library, will get priority, meaning during the library's hours, that will be parking for library. I agree. I did not really understand how this is going to be enforced. I would imagine that the city is investing a lot into license plates readers because we're going to have to enforce our paid parking policies as well. So we're going to have enforcement measures for the paid parking spots. So maybe piggy tails on with that. I don't know. I don't necessarily have a huge problem with this. I'm surprised there wasn't a counter from the businesses that surround that lot. I know a lot of times I'll park there and go grab a taco next door at Tacos and Donuts, or walk over to Ben and Jerry's. I'm surprised that there weren't more local businesses saying, listen, this is why it's great, and the library does great things, and the library patrons need places to park. It doesn't really supersede everybody else's needs to park. But there was little to no resistance that I heard, so it got passed. My other concern as well is that I've parked in my younger days, parked in that lot multiple times, and decided I'm not going to drive home, and taking a cab, walked home, Uber, whatever, because I can leave my car there. Is this change going to create more people to have second thoughts about driving home when they should not be driving home? And that's kind of it's a very difficult to quantify that. You can't, unless you put a cop out there stopping everybody at night or 2 a.m. leaving that lot. But that's a fear I have, or maybe some kind of concessions on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, or something. I don't know, but I just don't want to encourage people, give them a reason to feel like they got to get in their car and drive home late at night. Because I know a lot of patrons to Caroline Street who are out, enjoying our libations in our downtown establishments late night will leave their car there. So that's just a concern I have.
Well, that's a very important one as well. I don't know if I necessarily see that leading to increase of drunk driving, but I don't know that. And you bring that up. It sort of leads me to a quick tangent on this is the library, talking about paid parking in general, but the library parking also. Library closes at 9:00 some nights. Is the city going to be out and have enforcement at 10 at night, whether it's a paid lot or the library lot, or, the regular paid lot? Are they going to be enforcing at 2 a.m? I bet I doubt it, right? So maybe you take your chances late at night in the city. I don't know that they're going to have late night parking enforcement. That would be expensive. Hire new people, pay shift differential, all union contracts, all sorts of things. Just a side tangent here on parking, which is evolving as we speak.
Yeah, we'll find out. This is big parking changes this summer.
Yeah, exactly. And I see they just posed an RFP for workers to have employees, basically security, probably not calling it security, but in essence, parking lot attendants, parking garage attendants, a human being in the garage. They're looking for an outside vendor company. In other words, they're not going to be city employees. It's going to be, Whack and Hut or something to that effect, I think. That's
interesting. I wonder how the unions are taking that, right? Because if you're CSA, if you're the local union, why are you outsourcing these jobs to a private contractor who's probably not union when these could be good union city jobs?
Good. That's a good question. Now, these jobs, as far as I can tell, did not exist before, so there's no exclusivity on the city union's part. But I hope they're at least looking. Being a former union guy, I hope they're reviewing everything and asserting their rights, or at least cutting a deal with the city if there is something that needs to be done.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
Hey, are we ready to go about Mayor Kelly's legal bills, or is there anything else I'm missing on City Council last evening?
No, I think we could circle back to Gaza and Israel, but probably let's just go to Meg's legal bills, which this is just wild, huh? Essentially what happened is Meg Kelly, the former mayor, still has about $5,000 in legal bills that she needs paid, and this was a big to-do. Dan, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yes, and we've talked quite a bit about this. The city council talked ad nauseum about this. Our co-host Robin Dalton had legal bills from when she was in office. These aren't uncommon. Maybe in this case, with the attorney general and everything going on, I would acknowledge that part of it's uncommon. But legal bills from former officials, in the general sense, is not so out of the realm. They get sued, they get called for questioning and so forth. And it's pretty much usually a ministerial act that these things are approved. Not in Saratoga, and again with a supercharged issue such as the BLM marches and so forth. I guess I sort of get it, but a couple of the commissioners on the city council have been balking at paying Mayor Kelly's legal bills, asserting that they're asserting it as fact, but really it's just it's an allegation from the Attorney General's office that Mayor Kelly did not fully cooperate with the investigation. And if I believe I understand Commissioner Sungvi and Commissioner Dillon correctly, is that lack of cooperation created these excess legal bills using their, maybe not their terms, but their implication anyway, of that, and they don't want to pay it. And on this matter, I think there's more reasonable members on the council that understand they have a legal obligation to pay this. The reasons cited by Commissioner Sungvi and Commissioner Dillon, I don't think are valid. And I'm going to give away one of my cheers here. It was going to be a 3-2 vote. The question was who was the third vote going to be on the winning side on this? And Commissioner Golub, the only current attorney on the city council, he sided with paying the legal bill and indemnifying or continuing to pay the legal bills for former Mayor Kelly, along with Commissioner Cole and of course Mayor Safford. Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think Commissioner Sungvi voted no, and Commissioner Dillon Moran abstained.
Vice versa. So Commissioner Sungvi abstained, and Commissioner Moran voted to not pay the bills. Or to table it maybe, but either way, they did not vote in favor of paying this bill for former Mayor Meg Kelly's legal expense.
Commissioner Sungvi was looking for an amendment that this will be the last legal bill, and what the mayor pointed out and Commissioner Golub pointed out is there's no guarantee. You just can't guarantee that. The Attorney General could wake up tomorrow and say, "I got to call her back in and ask her 10 more questions."
This was so dumb. This was so because exactly. She wanted an amendment saying this was the last legal bills, and then essentially said, "Well, if there's more, we can reopen it." And I don't know what she was trying to accomplish by this. For me, this whole thing just stank of the previous kind of vendetta-driven administration that we dealt with 2 years ago. That Commissioner Sungvi and Commissioner Moran seems to do this a lot, where he will get a vendetta against somebody and ruthlessly go after them. Commissioner Sungvi, she has it in her to do this, and I think this is a great example of it. Listen, Mayor Kelly's bills were the end of the day, it was not it was less than the amount that Commissioner Sungvi used to redo her brand new office, right? You have to indemnify public officials from these kind of legal bills. It is just basic knowledge. They're really weaponizing kind of part of our charter in a way that it really bothers me when they do things like this, because and you're 1,000% right. Commissioner Golub, thank goodness, did what's right. He just stepped up and said, "I'm not going to do what the party's doing. I'm not going to do what's politically going to hurt my enemies. I'm just going to do what's right. And what's right is paying these bills. And it's no reason this should have been an issue at all." And so for that, I agree with 100%. Commend Commissioner Golub for going against the party and doing essentially what was the thing to do.
Yes, and I think Commissioner Golub has more of that in him. And let's face it, there are times where he's going to side with the two Democrats, and he's going to. And you and I might even be disappointed with that, but that's fine as long as he's independently acting on his correct beliefs and not playing politics. I think Commissioner Sungvi and Commissioner Moran would cringe if we, after hearing us say it felt political, because I think there was some that they believed what they were saying, but it did feel political, at least somewhat, almost like currying favor, if nothing else, currying favor with BLM. That's what it felt like. Like, look at me, I wouldn't pay Mayor Kelly's legal bills. And again, that may be unfair, but I have the right to make my assumptions as I'm sitting there watching that, and it at least crossed my mind.
Yeah, exactly. What is their motivation? The fact that this is so egregious, I don't know. I mean, meanwhile, Commissioner Moran's on his third lawsuit for, by disgruntled ex-employees. So this is, and we should pay those legal bills, right? I mean, this is.
Yes, we should. Yes, we should.
Yeah, exactly. This is not to
even if he was wrong. Even if he was wrong.
Right. We should, exactly. We should not. I 100% agree. We should not cherry pick this something as serious as the indemnification of our public employees unless it's absolutely egregious. Which
right.
So far, nothing has even approached being that egregious to not pay the bills.
Right. And Commissioner Cole had a good point. He said essentially, you've been paying the same salary for 30 some years now. Now you're not going to indemnify? Oh, lots of luck attracting qualified candidates to run for office.
Yeah.
So good for you, Commissioner Cole. I agree with you on that. So that is behind us for now. We know, the next legal bill could reignite this discussion, but for now it did pass, I guess 3-1 with one abstention.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears, Dan. The Derby, what did you think?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, let's talk about something upbeat. Well, like I say, any mammal named Dan is a superb athlete and handsome, as much like Mystic Dan and other Dans that you know. But seriously, the bummer of this, the two-part bummer, and I wrote about this in Saratoga Report this morning, was some people think Mystic Dan's in any event is not good enough to make a run at the Triple Crown. And it may not matter because he may not run in the Preakness. As of this morning, last time I looked at 7:00 this morning, it was still up in the air. For all I know, it's been decided by now. But so he may not run. And the point being in that people said, can you imagine if Saratoga hosting the Belmont, a Triple Crown is on the line? Well, it likely is not going to be on the line, even if Mystic Dan runs. I hope he wins. He was a damn good horse. I did bet on him for reasons other than my name. But that's excitement. My God, that Belmont, Adam, that is sneaking right up on us.
Yeah, it's exciting. I thought the Derby was a great race, but again, not great for Saratoga because on one hand, there's like some horse to come in and dominate these first two races. So we had the threat of a contender coming to Saratoga. It was three horses by a head in for win play show. So it was a great race, great for Mystic Dan. Not that the owners are watching this, but if the owners are watching this, run in the Preakness, please. Let's at least have a hope at having a Triple Crown threat. But it was a great race. These days you watch these races and you pray you don't see any horses break down. There were no injuries. There was nothing along those lines. So it was great for the sport of horse racing. And yeah, the Belmont, boy, we're getting close. That's going to be exciting. A month away.
We are now less than a month away. I believe it's on the 8th, right? Saturday the 8th. And the festival is going to be starting earlier that week on the Tuesday, Wednesday. So with the Blues Traveler coming on that Wednesday night when they shut down Broadway. I mean, summer. Let's face it, summer's here. It just doesn't quite hit it yet, but it's essentially here. But that's all good. That's all good. I hope everyone's, those that want to rent their place out and leave town and make 10 grand, God bless them. And those that want to stay and have fun, like you and I, that's great too.
Yeah.
And folks, we're not going to be going as long today. I think. Oh, one quick thing about the city council meeting is Commissioner Moran said he has a draft that he's not going to release just yet of the short-term rental regulations. He did say he's going to release them next week. And in public comment, Anna Smith, who was the leader, or at least the unofficial leader of the group that was initially opposed to the 1.0 version of Commissioner Moran's short-term rental regulations. I don't know, Adam, did it seem like she was speaking in a bit of a more conciliatory tone, almost like, geez, I hope we come together on this? Is kind of what I thought I heard.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of the short-term rental people are really frustrated with Commissioner Moran, but he did show a willingness to rework, revamp, and relook at the regulations. So maybe there's some of that going on. It's going to be interesting to see what he comes out with. If it's just some small, just small changes, or if he really took a lot of this public comment and made some very large changes to his plan. We don't know. Again, he said we'll find out in a week. This has been ongoing for a while now. I think, again, not everybody, but the vast majority of people think there should be something. It's just on Commissioner Moran right now to figure out what that something is.
Yeah, the mayor dropped a hint there because I think it was Miss Smith that was talking about the money aspect of it. And the mayor said something to the effect of, I think you're going to like this 2.0 version on that issue. He dropped a hint that this is going to be a scaled back, not as drastic policy or set of rules as originally proposed. Whether or not people are ultimately happy with it. Of course, if nobody's happy, maybe Commissioner Moran hit the sweet spot. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true, right? That's what they say about a good negotiation.
Yeah, exactly. So that's coming. Good. Are we ready for cheers and cheers, or do we have more to talk about?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And Robin, of course you're not watching. We said she's spending quality time with the family. Let me see. Okay, wait a minute. I can find the thing, but she has a fancy thing. I'm not even going to bother. I doubt if anyone really cares. Robin, sorry, we love your fancy cheers and jeers, but I'm going to use the pedestrian one that I happen to find here. Cheers and jeers. Do you want to kick off, or you want me to go, Adam?
Sure. So cheers and jeers. This cheers and jeers is going to seem political, I guess, because it is, but it's call it as I see it. So my cheers goes to the Republican Party in Saratoga, who immediately, the night of this rally, condemned it for what it was, kind of anti-Semitic hate speech. And they really came and stepped up for the local Jewish community. So I just want to thank them and cheer them for condemning this rally. A big jeer, and it's been since taken down, to go to the local Democrat Party. And I've had the local Democrat Party is struggling with this, just like national Republicans struggle with MAGA. The local Democratic Party struggles with its extreme wing. So the local Democratic Party, instead of condemning hate speech, use this as an opportunity to defend the First Amendment right, that people have a right to peacefully protest and yada yada. Which that's the most generic vanilla amendment that everybody agrees to. Everybody agrees to free speech, right? Find me somebody who don't. We can all, if that was the one thing, we could all come around, sing around and sing Kumbaya, because everybody agrees with free speech. But you can also condemn hate speech. You can also condemn intimidation. You can also stand up and protect the members of your population. So, for me, for the Democratic Party, just to say we stand with people's right to free speech, for me, was really tone deaf to what was going on, and it really kind of signaled where they're at as far as what's going on right now with this anti-Semitism that is just horrific, and it's nationwide right now, and they're essentially saying, there's good people on both sides. If you want to go out and yell and say, the Intifada and murder a bunch of Jews, that's a First Amendment right. So anyway, cheers to the local Democrat Party for not stepping up and taking a stand against hate speech.
Well stated. Yeah, it seems like the local Republicans have a better grip of where their Achilles heel is from the national sense, and they've been smart enough not to bring it down to the local level. The Dems, not so much. Anyway, mine are pretty minor compared to yours, Adam. I want to give a cheer to Victoria Patterson. She is the one that founded and runs the Mostly Modern Festival, which is coming June 6th to 21st. If you call last night, Adam, all of a sudden I blinked and there was a woman with a violin in her hands.
That was beautiful. She was fantastic.
Yes. This ugly open comment period where it carried over into the audience, and the mayor had to say, sit down and be quiet. And it was just going on and on, folks. It was, feels like there was 40 minutes of that. And all of a sudden she's there with a violin, and she's quite the accomplished violinist. And she played, you're right, it's a beautiful song. It reminded me of that scene in the Shawshank Redemption when he sort of locks the door and plays I believe some opera music, and there they are in this stark prison, and all of a sudden this beautiful music comes through the air. It reminded me of that scene, and not that city council meetings are necessarily prison, but hey, that's what popped into my head. So yeah. Victoria Patterson, we give you a cheer. A second cheer to Adam Israel and the What's Going On Saratoga Facebook page. You hit 10,000 people, not even a few 3-4 days ago. Good for you, folks. If you recall, and go to his and this there's someone who's essentially pilfering his name. What's Going On Saratoga? The real What's Going On Saratoga has that guy right there next to me on your screen, his face on it. That's the real one. That's the one that is really often driving the news here in Saratoga Springs. So if you're on Facebook, and I know some of you aren't, but if you are on Facebook, make sure you like and follow that page and pay some attention to it. Yeah, is there some noise on there? Is there some spam? A quick shout out to Christine Ann Brennan and Suzanne Mangini. They do a great job of really filtering out as much negative as possible. So good for them. They spend a lot of time with you doing that. But I want to give you a cheer for that. I mentioned I cheered for Commissioner Golub earlier. That's all I have, Adam.
All right, Dan. Well, it's been a pleasure. We miss Robin. We'll have her back next week. Until then, stay charming, Saratoga.
Thanks for watching, folks.
Yeah.